The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
You may have woken up this week and realized that PBS Tavis Smiley had been fired from his job. He's among the accused after PBS suspended distribution of his long-running talk show. Smiley took to social media to deny all accusations.
I was as shocked as you were to hear of PBS's sudden announcement regarding my television program. I have the utmost respect for all women, and I certainly celebrate the courage of those women who've come forth of late to share their own truth. But let me also assure you that I have never groped, inappropriately exposed myself, or coerced any colleague in the workplace ever. PBS launched this so-called investigation of me without ever even telling me about it. I only learned of this investigation because former colleagues, former staffers, started to call me to tell me they were getting a phone call from some PBS investigator asking, number one, did Tavis ever make you feel uncomfortable in the workplace? And number two, can you give us other persons to call? PBS investigators refused to look at any of my documentation, refused to talk to any of my current staffers, refused to give me the names of any of my accusers, and refused to give me any semblance of due process. PBS overreacted, and they launched a sloppy investigation. And I, for one, intend to fight back.
Powerful statement by Tavis Smiley denying the
total denial
allegations, and we've seen that with respect to Russell Simmons. He also has denied the allegations of rape that have been made against him. And Tavis raises some really interesting points. The first thing he says is the investigation that was conducted by PBS was sloppy. If you have been accused of sexual harassment in the workplace, or if there's an accusation, employers have an affirmative obligation to conduct a thorough investigation. Talk to any potential witnesses, look at text messages, emails, any evidence that they can uncover, because they've got to get to the bottom of it. Are these allegations true? Because this can ruin someone's life, their reputation, their career. But we also know that what we've seen for so many of the women coming forward, they also are exposed to great risk. It's career suicide for a woman to come out and make allegations against someone as powerful as Tavis Smiley. So this company, PBS, it's a question about whether this investigation, as Tavis has said, was it a sloppy investigation? Now, we don't know that. That's his allegation. I assume PBS had a big team full of lawyers that were looking at the material they found in the investigation before they suspended his show. So this probably gets played out in the courtroom.
So, Areva, I know every case is going to be different, but from a practical standpoint, when you're talking about something that happened in the 80s, in the 90s, how difficult is it to prove that? Because as you said, of course, we want anyone who really did this to be punished to the full extent of the law. But for individuals who may have been falsely accused, you don't want them to suffer the repercussions. So how difficult is it to prove that?
Well, first, it's important to note that the false allegations, the percentage of allegations that are false is really tiny. I think some statistics says less than 2% of all allegations are made. So we should start with the fact that 98% or plus of the allegations made are true. And what an employer is looking at is a pattern. And what we've seen in a lot of these cases, it usually isn't just one woman coming forward. We've seen multiple women. So you can start to see a pattern of behavior that develops. And it's important to note, too, that a lot of the men that have been accused, they've admitted it. They haven't denied it. A lot of, we saw in the chef world, we saw in the, you know, the food world, Mario Batali came out and says, yes, I did some things that I'm not proud of. So a lot of men have just stepped up to the plate and have acknowledged the conduct. They've stepped away from their companies and they've committed themselves, so they say, to getting some help. But that doesn't, I think, address fundamentally what's happening to women. And I think we have to stay focused on this because we are seeing a sea change as it relates to how women who come forward are treated.
Yes.
They're not being slut-shamed. They're not being accused of lying and being gold diggers, and that's really different. In the 20 years that I've been a civil rights attorney, I've never seen that. Women would come forward and immediately no one would believe them. They would always believe the man. The man's career would soar, the woman would be fired, she'd be ostracized, her whole career would be over. That's changing.
So, I love that little girls and little boys are now growing up in a world where this culture has not been normalized. So they're seeing that it is not right and you cannot get away with it. So hopefully this will break that cycle.
Swift and severe repercussions for anyone that abuses their power and abuses a woman. That's zero tolerance.
People are getting fired right and left. I mean, that's a good start.